I can see the wine glass on the mahogany table, catching the light from the chandelier. My hand is frozen mid-reach, and the woman's words are still ringing in my ears. Don't let him drink that. 3 seconds later, everything I thought I knew about my marriage shatters like crystal against tile. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up. My name is Ashley, and I was living what I genuinely believed was the good life. Not the Instagram-filtered version. The real thing. My husband Michael and I had been married for 8 years, and we'd built something solid. A 4-bedroom colonial in Westchester County with white shutters, a mortgage we could actually afford, a kitchen I'd renovated 2 years ago with Carrara marble countertops and stainless steel appliances. The kind of house you drive past and think, yeah, those people have their lives together. Michael worked in finance. Not hedge funds or anything flashy, but steady, respectable work at a mid-sized investment firm in Manhattan. He'd bring home around $240,000 a year, and I worked part-time at a nonprofit doing grant writing. We weren't rich, but we were comfortable. Our 401ks were funded. Our credit score was 785. We took a vacation to Turks and Caicos every February. Our friends envied us, even if they never said it outright. The marriage wasn't perfect, but whose is? Michael could be distant sometimes. He'd come home from the city and zone out with his phone or his laptop. He had his wine hobby, expensive bottles, a temperature-controlled rack he'd installed in the basement, long discussions with other collectors about tannins and terroir. I found it a little pretentious, but I liked that he had a passion. It kept him grounded, I thought. We didn't have kids, which had been a mutual decision that suddenly felt less mutual around year 5. But we'd made peace with it. We had our routines. Friday nights we'd order Italian from this place in Scarsdale. Sundays we'd sleep in and have coffee on the back patio. On Saturday mornings, Michael would go to the farmer's market while I cleaned the house. We'd meet up for lunch. It was domestic, comfortable, boring in the best possible way. My parents lived 40 minutes away in Connecticut. My mom, Linda, would visit once a month and always brought homemade lasagna. She adored Michael. She'd tell me how lucky I was, how he was such a good man, how she'd seen her friends' daughters end up with guys who didn't have half his ambition. My dad was more reserved, but even he seemed satisfied with my choice. Michael's family was more complicated. His mother, Karen, lived in New Jersey and had never quite accepted that Michael had married me instead of some debutante from a Philadelphia mainline family. She was pleasant enough on the surface, but had a way of asking questions that felt like accusations. Oh, you're not working full-time. That must be relaxing. That kind of thing. Michael usually defended me, which I appreciated, though it sometimes created tension between them. But that's the background noise of normal life, right? Every marriage has it. The autumn that changed everything started like any other. Michael was busier than usual at work. Something about a merger, extra hours, late meetings. He'd get home around 8 or 9, eat dinner quickly, and retreat downstairs to his wine collection. I didn't mind. I'd watch my shows, text my friend Jennifer about her divorce drama, scroll through my phone. We were still affectionate, still slept in the same bed, still had sex maybe once a week, or once every 10 days. Then came October 15th. I remember the date because I'd written it down in my planner. Michael's company was throwing their annual gala at the Plaza Hotel in New York. Black tie. I bought a dress, a sapphire-colored gown that cost more than I usually spent on clothes. Michael rented a tux. We made plans to get a hotel room in the city so we wouldn't have to drive home late. The day of the gala, I was getting ready in our bedroom. I'd had my hair and nails done that morning. I was feeling good, genuinely happy. Michael came in from his shower, already in his dress pants and white shirt, and he looked handsome. Tired, maybe, but handsome. "You look beautiful," he said, and he meant it. He kissed my neck. "You're going to mess up my makeup," I laughed, but I didn't pull away. We rode the train into the city and checked into the plaza around 5. The gala didn't start until 8, so we had time to relax, order room service. Michael seemed distracted, though. He kept checking his phone, scrolling through emails. I tried not to let it bother me. Everything okay? I asked. Fine, just work stuff. Nothing you need to worry about. That phrase should have triggered something in me. Nothing you need to worry about. But it didn't. Or maybe I didn't let it. The gala itself was beautiful, elegant. Michael's colleagues were there with their wives, and I felt like we looked like a couple that had it all figured out. I wore the sapphire dress, he wore the tux, and we danced to a live band and drank champagne. For a few hours, Michael was present, engaged, smiling. We felt like newlyweds again. We didn't make it back to Westchester until the next morning. That's when everything started to feel strange. Michael became even more withdrawn. He'd take calls in the garage or out on the back patio, his voice low. When I'd ask him about work, he'd give me vague answers. Same old stuff. Nothing interesting. But his jaw would tighten, and I'd catch him staring at nothing, lost in thought. I told myself I was being paranoid. Marriage goes through phases. This was just a phase. Then, on October 29th, I was working from home, sitting at my desk in the upstairs bedroom we'd converted into an office, when I heard a car pull into the driveway. I glanced out the window. It was a woman I'd never seen before. Blonde, maybe mid-40s, in a white Range Rover. She sat there for maybe a minute, just parked at the curb, not moving. Then she turned around and drove away. I felt something cold move through my chest. I didn't tell Michael. I told myself there was probably a rational explanation. Maybe she was lost. Maybe she was looking for a house for sale. But I started paying attention in a different way after that. I noticed that Michael's phone was always face down, that he'd step away to take calls, that his credit card statements, which we usually reviewed together, seemed to have some charges I didn't recognize. Nothing massive. A hotel in Stamford. A restaurant called Meadowlark in the city. We'd never been to Meadowlark together. I didn't want to be that wife. The paranoid, jealous one. But something felt off. Something felt very off. And I didn't know what to do about it. Then came November 12th. The day that started everything. It was a Thursday evening. Michael was working late again, or so he said. I was home alone, making myself pasta, when the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. I opened the door to find a woman standing on my porch, mid-50s, dark hair with gray at the temples, dressed in a gray blazer and jeans. She looked nervous, like she'd been building up the courage to ring that bell for a long time. Can I help you? I asked, not opening the door wider. Are you Ashley? She asked. Her voice was shaky. Yes. Who are you? My name is Rebecca, Rebecca Chen. I think I know your husband. She paused, swallowing hard. I work at his office, in finance, and I need to tell you something important. Can I come in? Every instinct I had screamed at me to slam the door. But I didn't. I stepped aside and let her in. We sat in the living room, the lights from the chandelier casting everything in gold. Rebecca was trembling, and I realized she was more nervous than I was. I don't even know where to start, she said. I've been thinking about this for weeks, about whether I should tell you, about whether it's my place. But I have a sister, and she's in a situation, and I couldn't not say anything. Say what? I heard myself ask, though part of me already knew. Part of me had known since that blonde woman sat in her Range Rover at the end of my driveway. Your husband, Michael, Rebecca took a breath. He's having an affair, a serious one, not just a fling. It's been going on for at least a year, maybe longer. The woman is named Victoria. She works in our office, and I think he might be planning to leave you. The words didn't land all at once. They came in waves. Affair. Serious. A year. Leave you. I felt like I was watching myself from outside my body, like I was floating somewhere near the ceiling, looking down at this woman on my couch, telling me the worst thing I'd ever heard. How do you know this? My voice sounded very far away. Because Victoria is my colleague, and she's not exactly quiet about it. She's always talking about how he's going to leave, how they're going to move together, how his wife doesn't understand him. And I know Michael. I know he comes in some mornings looking happy, different, and I've seen them together, At restaurants, at hotels. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Why now? Why come to my house? Rebecca looked down at her hands. Because my sister is married to a man who's doing the same thing to her. And nobody told her. She found out on her own 6 months later. And by then, he'd already hidden money, gotten a lawyer, set up everything in his favor. And I thought if someone could have warned her, it might have been different. She paused. Also, I think Michael might be doing something with the money, something financial. I don't have proof, but there have been transfers, unusual account activity. I thought you should know. I thought you should talk to a lawyer. Before he does. I remember Rebecca leaving. I remember nodding, saying thank you, opening the door. I don't remember the actual goodbye. What I do remember is standing in my kitchen, staring at the pasta I'd made, now cold on the stove, and feeling like the ground had opened up beneath my feet. My marriage, which I'd thought was solid, was a lie. My husband, who I'd trusted with everything, was betraying me. And according to Rebecca, he was already planning his exit strategy. My phone buzzed, a text from Michael. Working late, don't wait up, love you. Love you. That's when I made the decision that would change everything. I don't remember making a conscious decision about the wine. That's what haunts me now, that it wasn't even a plan. It was pure instinct, the kind of thing you do without thinking. And then you can't take it back. Michael came home around 10 that night. I was sitting in the living room with a glass of wine of my own, something I rarely did on a weeknight. But I needed it. I needed something. He walked in still wearing his work clothes, loosening his tie, and he barely looked at me. Hey, he said, kissing the top of my head in that automatic way that suddenly felt like a lie. Still up? Couldn't sleep, I said. My voice sounded normal. I was shocked at how normal it sounded. Long day. I'm going to pour something and head to the basement for a bit. You good? I nodded. He went to the kitchen. I heard him opening the wine fridge, the temperature-controlled one he loved more than he seemed to love me, and the clink of a bottle. A Bordeaux, probably. Something expensive. Something he'd been saving. That's when the thought hit me like a physical blow. What if Rebecca was lying? What if she was some unstable woman with a grudge against Michael? What if I was about to destroy my marriage based on the word of a complete stranger? I stood up and walked to the kitchen. Michael was pouring the wine into one of his special glasses, the ones he'd brought back from some wine conference in Napa. The glass caught the light, deep red, beautiful, poisonous looking. Actually, I heard myself say, let's have dinner together. Real dinner. I made something. Michael glanced up, surprised. I'm not really hungry, Ash. I had something at the office. Please, I said, and something in my voice must have registered, because he set the glass down. Okay, yeah, let me change. We sat at the dining table 20 minutes later. I'd heated up some pasta I'd made the night before. Michael was quieter than usual, checking his phone every few minutes. I was trying to decide what to do. Was I really going to ask him directly? Was I going to play detective? Was I going to hire a lawyer before I even knew if any of this was true? Michael, I started, then stopped. What? Do you love me? The question came out before I could stop it. Desperate, pathetic. He looked up from his phone. For a second, he looked almost guilty. Of course I do. Why would you ask that? I don't know. You just seem distant lately. He set his phone down. Work has been stressful. The merger thing, it's a lot. You could talk to me about it. There's not much to talk about. It's just the usual office politics. Nothing interesting. Lies. I was suddenly certain they were lies. Not because of anything he said, but because of the way he wouldn't quite meet my eyes. I excused myself and went to the bathroom. I sat on the toilet and took deep breaths. My hands were shaking. I was about to blow up my entire life based on accusations from a stranger, and I couldn't even be sure if I was doing it for the right reasons. Was it protection? Was it anger? Was it just the desperate need to feel like I had some control? When I came back downstairs, Michael had poured himself that glass of wine. It sat on the mahogany table in the living room, next to the armchair where he always sat. The chandelier caught it just right, making it glow like something alive. He was standing by the window, looking out at the dark yard. "I'm going to stay at my mom's tomorrow night," he said quietly. "A work thing came up, team dinner in the city, and then I'm helping her with some stuff at her house in New Jersey. I'll be back Friday." My stomach dropped. Thursday night, Friday all day. That was 12 hours. That was more than enough time. "Oh," I said. "Okay. When did that come up?" "Just today. My boss asked me this afternoon." Another lie. I could feel it like a physical thing, something rotten between us. Michael picked up the wineglass and took a long sip. He closed his eyes like he was savoring it, like he was enjoying something beautiful while his wife stood 3 feet away, knowing he was destroying her. That's when the madness took over. I don't remember deciding to do it. I don't remember the steps. But I know what happened next, because I've replayed it 1,000 times in my head, and it's burned into my memory like a brand. I excused myself again. I went to the kitchen. I opened the cabinet where we kept the cleaning supplies, the industrial strength stuff we used for the tile floors, the kind that said poison in bright yellow letters on the side. I didn't take much, maybe a teaspoon, maybe less. I didn't really think about amounts. I didn't think about anything. I went to the bathroom and mixed it with a little bit of water in a small glass. It didn't change color. It didn't smell like anything in particular. It just looked like water. My hands were steady now, eerily steady. I came back downstairs. Michael was still standing by the window, the wine glass in his hand, almost empty now. I walked past him, into the kitchen, and I did something I've never done in my life before or since. I poured the mixture into his wine glass, just like that. A few seconds. The glass was mostly empty anyway, so it barely made a difference. The red wine hid everything. Michael turned around. "Did you want some?" he asked, gesturing to his glass. "No," I said. "That's okay." He went back to the window. He took another sip from the glass. I watched him. I stood there in my own living room, in my own house, in the home we'd built together, and I watched my husband drink poison because a stranger had told me he was unfaithful. That's the moment I need to explain something, because I know how this sounds. I know how I sound. But in that moment, I wasn't thinking clearly. I was thinking like an animal backed into a corner. I was thinking like someone whose entire world was collapsing, and the only way to feel like she had any power at all was to do something irreversible. I wasn't thinking about consequences. I wasn't thinking about the law. I wasn't thinking about what would happen next. I was only thinking, he won't leave me if he's dead. Michael finished the glass about 5 minutes later. He set it down on the side table. "I'm tired," he said. "I'm going to bed." "Okay," I said. He kissed my forehead. "Love you." "Love you too," I whispered. He went upstairs. I stood in the living room and waited for something to happen. For him to collapse. For him to scream. For him to call 911. For something to break the terrible, perfect silence of my house. Nothing happened. I went upstairs an hour later. Michael was already asleep, his back to me, breathing normally. I lay down next to him and didn't sleep. I lay there all night, waiting for his breathing to stop, waiting for the moment when everything would change, waiting for justice or punishment or whatever was supposed to come next. But Michael woke up the next morning and went to work like nothing had happened. I nearly fainted when he kissed me goodbye. "See you Friday," he said, and he left. I spent Thursday in a state of shock. No police came, no sirens, nothing. Michael texted me from the city around noon. Dinner was good, heading to Mom's now. At some point during that endless day, the reality of what I'd done started to hit me. I'd poisoned my husband. I'd actually poisoned him. And nothing had happened. Or maybe something had happened and I wouldn't know until later. Maybe it was slow acting. Maybe he'd collapse in front of his mother. Maybe he'd die in the car on the way to New Jersey. I spent Friday refreshing the news, checking his Instagram, calling his office and hanging up when someone answered. At 6 o'clock, he texted, "Staying at Mom's tonight, back tomorrow afternoon." Saturday morning, he walked through the front door. Alive. Completely fine. No symptoms, no illness, no sign that anything was wrong at all. He gave me a hug. He asked how my day was. He went downstairs to his wine collection like nothing had changed. That's when I realized either Rebecca had lied about everything, or Michael's affair and whatever financial scheme he was running was worth the risk of poisoning. That's when I realized I'd just attempted to murder my husband for nothing, and that's when I heard the knock on the door. Hashtag finalne chast. Saturday morning, he walked through the front door. Alive. Completely fine, no symptoms, no illness, no sign that anything was wrong at all. He gave me a hug. He asked how my day was. He went downstairs to his wine collection like nothing had changed. That's when I realized either Rebecca had lied about everything, or Michael's affair and whatever financial scheme he was running was worth the risk of poisoning. That's when I realized I'd just attempted to murder my husband for nothing. And that's when I heard the knock on the door. I was standing in the kitchen, still processing the fact that Michael was alive, when the doorbell rang. It was around 2 in the afternoon. Michael was in the basement, and I was alone, and my hands were literally shaking as I walked to the front door. It was 2 men in dark suits, federal agents. The moment I saw them, my stomach dropped through the floor. "Are you Ashley Chen?" the taller one asked, holding up a badge. "I'm Agent Morrison. This is Agent Park. We're with the FBI. We need to speak with your husband, Michael Chen." I couldn't speak. I couldn't move. All I could think was, they know. They know what I did. "Is he home?" Agent Park asked. I nodded, still frozen. "Can you get him, please?" I called down to Michael. He came up looking confused, and the moment he saw the badges, his face went white. Actually white. Like all the blood drained out of it. "What is this about?" he asked, but his voice was shaking. "We have a warrant to search your home and your office," Agent Morrison said. "Michael Chen, we're investigating allegations of securities fraud, wire fraud, and money laundering connected to the Hendricks-Welton merger. You have the right to remain silent." The rest was just noise. Michael was being read his rights while I stood in my own kitchen, watching my life implode, and I realized with sudden, horrible clarity that Rebecca hadn't lied. She'd been telling the truth, and I'd just poisoned my husband over something he was actually guilty of. The agents searched our house for 4 hours. They took Michael's laptop, his phone, documents from his office. They found something in the filing cabinet: papers, transfers, account statements. Michael's face got grayer and grayer with each box they filled. By 6 o'clock, he was being taken downtown for questioning. I stood on the porch and watched them put him in the car. A neighbor, Linda from 3 doors down, was watering her front garden and watching the whole thing. Her mouth was actually open. Michael looked at me through the car window as they pulled away. His expression was the most honest thing I'd seen from him in months. It was fear. Pure, uncomplicated fear. That night, I called a lawyer. Not to defend Michael. God, no. But to protect myself. The lawyer, a woman named Patricia, who came highly recommended, met with me on Monday morning. "I need to tell you something," I said. "Something that happened." She listened while I told her about Rebecca, about what I'd done, about the poison. Her face didn't change. When I finished, she sat back in her chair. "Did your husband consume it?" she asked. "Yes. But it didn't work. I don't even know what I used. I think maybe I didn't use enough, or it wasn't strong enough, or—" "Did he show any symptoms?" "No, nothing." Patricia was quiet for a long moment. "Ashley, what you're describing is a serious federal crime. Attempted murder. Poisoning. If you confess to this, you will go to prison. There's no question about that." My hands started shaking again. "However," she continued, "there's also no evidence. No toxicology report showing poison in his system. No doctor's visit. No hospital records. No one else knows what you did except you and me, and I'm your attorney, so that's protected. But I should tell someone, the police, the FBI. I should—" "You should do nothing," Patricia said firmly. "You should forget this happened. And if anyone ever asks you directly, you refuse to answer without an attorney present. Do you understand? I nodded slowly. In the meantime, she said, your husband is about to be arrested for federal crimes, multiple counts. He's looking at serious prison time, and you are going to file for divorce immediately. You're going to hire a forensic accountant. You're going to protect your assets, and you're going to start your life over. Over the next week, the story unfolded in the news. Michael and 3 other colleagues had been systematically stealing from their clients. They'd been routing money through shell companies, falsifying documents, creating fake accounts. The amounts were staggering. Millions of dollars. The Hendricks-Welton merger had been part of it. They'd manipulated the deal to profit personally while their clients lost money. One of those clients was a woman named Victoria. Yes, that Victoria, Michael's girlfriend. Except she wasn't his girlfriend at all. She was a whistleblower. She'd discovered the fraud, reported it to the FBI, and had been working with them to gather evidence for months. The relationship had been part of the investigation. She'd been building trust with Michael, getting him to confess details that would hold up in court. I learned this from a news article, not from Michael, not from Rebecca, who I never heard from again. The divorce was finalized 8 months later. Michael pled guilty to all charges and was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison. The judge made a point of noting the sophisticated nature of the fraud and the amount of money involved. Michael's assets were frozen. His pension was forfeited. The clients he'd stolen from got partial restitution. I got the house. I got what was left of our savings. I got my life back, more or less. What I also got was something darker. Every single day, I think about that glass of wine. I think about the fact that I was willing to commit murder based on the word of a stranger. I think about the person I became in that moment. Someone capable of poisoning her husband. Someone willing to destroy everything rather than face the possibility of loss. The scariest part isn't that I did it. It's that I would do it again. If Michael had died that night, I would have gotten away with it. There would be no evidence, no toxicology report because he wouldn't have gone to a hospital, no investigation because everyone would have assumed he'd had a heart attack or a stroke. I would have killed my husband and faced no consequences, except I would have killed an innocent man. Or not innocent, guilty as hell, but guilty of fraud, not of infidelity. Guilty of something I didn't actually know about, something I only poisoned him for because a woman I'd never met told me he was cheating. I never reported what I did. I never told the FBI. I never told anyone except Patricia, and she has to keep it confidential. Michael doesn't know. He probably thinks he was just lucky that whatever he drank that night didn't have the delayed effects he might have expected. Sometimes I wonder if he actually drank it. If maybe I hesitated at the last second and poured something else. My memory is foggy on the details. It's easier that way. I'm dating someone now, a man named Brandon, who teaches high school history. He's kind. He's honest. We take things slow. And every time he mentions trust, every time he talks about how important it is to be truthful with someone you love, I feel like I'm going to throw up. Because I know what I'm capable of. I know that when I'm desperate, when I'm scared, when I feel like everything is slipping away, I'm capable of the worst things imaginable. I'm capable of poisoning someone. I'm capable of lying to the FBI. I'm capable of living with a secret that would destroy me if anyone ever found out. The moral of this story isn't about Michael or Rebecca or Victoria or the fraud or the affair that wasn't actually an affair. It's about me. It's about what happens when you stop trusting yourself and start trusting strangers. It's about the dangerous line between protecting yourself and destroying everything. I ruined Michael's life, but not because he deserved it, because I was terrified and someone else's fear sounded like truth. The scariest part? I got everything I wanted. The house, the freedom, the fresh start, and I did it by poisoning my husband. I just didn't kill him.